My first question for you this afternoon, Omer, is what do you like about your work?
So, what do I like about my work? Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in health tech, and I love creating things from scratch, preferably that customers will ultimately buy and pay for, so that I can earn a living. Yeah, so that usually means building a product that is competitively priced while providing essentially the best possible customer experience. That's easier said than done, especially, in fact, it can be very challenging when, like, I'm in health tech, digital health. So having to create a new technology, which ultimately requires a behavior change, either by the customer, in my case, the medical practitioner, and or the patient. But on the flip side, having satisfied customers does make all the struggles worthwhile. I do also like the educational aspect, the fact that I'm constantly learning, and it's not just in my field. If you decide to become an entrepreneur, you have to learn. You're constantly learning. That's part of the game. If you're not learning, you're not doing a business. You're not doing a business. And to stay relevant and competitive, you have to keep up with the latest trends. So yes, building something from scratch, interacting with customers, and I think doing all of this forces me to be disciplined. Like being disciplined is very critical. If you're not disciplined, forget it. And I actually enjoy having to adapt to unexpected changes in circumstances. For example, having to make a business work within this pandemic and remote working situation. That's an example.
Good, excellent. The second question I've got for you is, how did you start out?
How did I start out? Well, it started, I guess, in the 90s when I was working on my PhD. It was a PhD in chemistry, but at the time the internet was new. And I was looking at applying internet technologies to better enable chemical research. And at the time, there were many companies starting out in the internet, just internet-based companies. And I wanted to start my own after I did my PhD and my postdoc. So in the late 90s, after I left uni, I thought I would work for a couple of years in a small software company, just to get the experience and interact with customers, and then start my company after that, after gaining the experience. But then probably many of the viewers might not recall the dot-com bubble bursting, and it was at that time that I decided, okay, maybe this is not the best time to start a business. And so I decided to join a pharmaceutical company, GSK, and I thought I'd just be working there for 1 or 2 years, just seeing this through, and then I would start my business. I ended up staying at GSK for 12 years, for a number. I guess it was more pragmatic than anything else. I won't get into the details. And but I had increasingly, and that's the good thing about working for a large corporation, a pharmaceutical corporation, or any type of a blue chip company, that if you work hard, there are opportunities. There are opportunities for growth and advancement, especially in new novel areas, which you might not necessarily acquire by being an entrepreneur. So yeah, I worked for GSK for almost 12 years. And then after that, that's when I decided to start my first company. And I've been an entrepreneur now for 8 years. And I've worked either as a CEO or COO, CTO, and I'm back to being a CEO again in a digital health company. And now that I've bitten the entrepreneur bug, there's no way I'll be going back.
Fantastic. And the final question I've got for you this afternoon is, what would you say to someone starting out today?
Okay, if they are in university and deciding to thinking about whether or not to start a business or join a small company or join a large corporation, I think all of those options are good if they're done strategically. For example, a student may decide to do a research project within the university and then spin that project out into a company. I would strongly advise students who have that proclivity to pursue it. Otherwise, working for a large corporation will give the kind of experience and skills that are very, very applicable to being an entrepreneur. But then also working for a small company will give exposure to what it's like working for a startup company, and that's also good. So it depends on the individual, what their goals are, and the approach that as to the approach that they would take. Once they decide to take the plunge and start their own business, I think it's really important to do market research. I believe in competition. Many entrepreneurs look for an area where there's no competition. If there aren't competitors, I would ask why not. It's better to have competition and build a robust business plan to work out how the service or product that's being offered is better than what the competition has to offer. And what's also very important is to understand not only how you will find the early adopters, but how your service will scale to get the critical mass of customers that will enable you to have a good living and ultimately sell the business, exit if that's the intention. Having all of these structured and documented within the business plan are extremely helpful also to the entrepreneur, and as well to whoever is will be funding them. And there will be hurdles, there will be challenges. Just be ready for them. Don't get discouraged by them, but also expect to pivot, expect that your business is going to change and evolve once you learn what the customers really want. It always turn out to be something unexpected, and that's, I think, that's where the discovery and surprise comes in, and I think that's one of the most enjoyable aspects of being an entrepreneur.